Upper Crust Bakery, it's based in Glendale, is voluntarily recalling 3 types of bread after glass fragments were found on top of the loaves.
Glass shards, metal wires, plastic pieces sharp enough to chip teeth. That's what ended up inside some of America's most trusted bread brands in just the past 2 years. And you probably have one of these brands sitting in your kitchen right now, and they're putting you and your family at risk. Today, I'm exposing 10 deadly bread brands you should stop buying, and 4 genuinely safe ones that won't maim you. Starting with the most recent disaster. Number 10. Upper Crust Bakery. In April 2025, Upper Crust Bakery had to recall 3 of their products after customers found glass fragments sitting right on top of their bread, not hidden inside, literally visible on the surface. The affected products were their ancient grains hoagie, multi-grain sourdough, and whole grain multigrain rolls, distributed across Pennsylvania, California, Connecticut, Maryland, Delaware, and Ohio. The FDA classified this as a Class 2 recall, meaning there's a reasonable probability that eating this bread could cause serious health problems or temporary adverse consequences. Think about that for a second. Glass in your mouth, glass going down your throat, the kind of injury that could mean an emergency room visit, internal bleeding, or worse. And this was from a bakery that markets itself as premium artisan quality with wholesome ingredients. The recall notice specifically urged customers to either throw the products away or return them immediately. But at least Upper Crust warns you it's dangerous. The next brand hides behind the friendly face of America's favorite donut shop. Number 9. FGF Brands. If you've ever grabbed a donut from Dunkin', then you need to hear this. In February 2025, FGF Brands, one of Dunkin's major suppliers, recalled over 2 million baked goods because of potential Listeria contamination. 2 million. That's not a small batch quality control issue. The recall covered 60 different products, including donuts, muffins, and other baked goods sold at Dunkin', locations across the entire United States and Canada. According to reports from the New York Times and Axios, the contamination risk was serious enough that the FDA upgraded this to a Class 2 recall within days of the initial announcement. Now here's where it gets interesting. FGF Brands put out a statement claiming that no donuts or surfaces tested positive for Listeria during their internal testing. So why recall 2 million products if you claim everything tested clean? Because Listeria monocytogenes is the 3rd leading cause of death from foodborne illness in America, according to the CDC. It causes miscarriages, stillbirths, and meningitis in pregnant women, newborns, elderly people, and anyone with a weakened immune system. The infection rate might be low, but the mortality rate is around 20 to 30% for those who do get infected. That's why the FDA doesn't mess around with Listeria. The fact that FGF downplayed the risk while simultaneously recalling millions of products tells you everything you need to know about how they handle food safety. They knew the potential consequences were catastrophic, but they still tried to save face publicly. But at least FGF's contamination was bacterial. What comes next is even more disturbing because it involves something they deliberately added to the food. Number 8. The Bakery Group Texas. In March 2025, this Texas bakery recalled 733 cases of brioche. That's over 9,000 individual products because they forgot to mention a few tiny details on the label. Like the fact that their bread contained milk and soy, 2 of the top 8 most common food allergens in America. But wait, it gets worse. They also failed to disclose Yellow 5, an artificial dye that's banned in Austria and Finland because it contains benzidine and 4-aminobiphenyl. Both are known human carcinogens according to the FDA's own database. Let that sink in for a moment. A coloring agent linked to cancer, and they just didn't think it was worth mentioning on the package. This wasn't discovered because customers complained. It was found during a routine state inspection in Texas. How long had this brioche been on shelves with incorrect labeling? How many people with dairy allergies ate this bread thinking it was safe? For someone with a severe milk or soy allergy, eating this bread could trigger anaphylactic shock, throat closure, and potential death if they don't get to an EpiPen fast enough. And they had no way of knowing because the label was essentially lying to them. The fact that the bakery group only recalled the product after being caught, rather than proactively fixing their labeling, shows a complete disregard for consumer safety. They were literally hiding ingredients that could kill certain customers. Speaking of companies that treat safety violations like a minor inconvenience, let's talk about a brand with an FDA warning that reads like a rap sheet. Number 7. Hillside Orchard Farms. Now, here's where things get deadly serious. In late 2024 extending into 2025, Hillside Orchard Farms was hit with an FDA Class 1 recall. Not Class 2 like the others we've mentioned, Class 1. That's the most severe classification the FDA can issue, reserved for situations where there's a reasonable probability of serious adverse health consequences or death. So what was the reason? Undeclared egg allergen in multiple bread products sold at farm markets and roadside stands across Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. According to Newsweek's coverage of the recall, egg allergies are one of the most common food allergies in children, and reactions can range from hives and digestive issues to full anaphylactic shock. But here's what makes this Class 1 instead of Class 2. The products were sold at small farm markets and roadside stands, places where people go specifically because they want to avoid big industrial food and support local farmers. These customers trusted Hillside Orchard Farms to be honest about ingredients, and that trust was weaponized against them. Parents buying this bread for their egg-allergic children had no idea they were bringing home a potentially fatal product. The FDA's language in the recall notice was unusually blunt, directly stating the probability of death if the product was consumed by someone with an egg allergy. That's not typical FDA speak. They usually use more measured language. The fact that they emphasize the death risk tells you how serious this violation was. At least Hillside Orchard Farms only had one major violation. The next company treats recalls like a quarterly business expense. But hey, if you're still watching and you want to make sure you never miss critical food safety information like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. Your support helps this channel grow and protects more families from contaminated food. Drop a comment. Which bread brand do you usually get? I'd like to know. All right, now back to these offenders. Number 6, Bimbo Bakeries, USA. Now we're getting into the serial offenders. Bimbo Bakeries is a Mexican multinational that owns over 55 bakeries and 700 distribution centers across North America. They make Sara Lee, Nature's Harvest, Arnold, Brownberry, Stroman, Entenmann's, Thomas's English Muffins, and a dozen other brands you absolutely recognize. And they have a track record that should genuinely terrify you. Let's start with the 2015 glass contamination incident. CBS News reported that Bimbo recalled 50,000 packages of bread across 11 states because a light bulb broke at one of their factories and contaminated the production line with glass shards. The affected brands included Sara Lee, Nature's Harvest, and even store brands like Kroger and Great Value that Bimbo manufactures under contract. 3 customers actually found glass pieces on their bread before the recall went out, which means who knows how many people bit into contaminated slices and just didn't report it. The concerning part is that it took customer complaints for Bimbo to even realize there was glass in the production line. Their internal quality control completely failed. But that wasn't their first rodeo. In 2013, Bimbo had a nationwide recall across all 50 states because flexible wire from a faulty flour mill screen started shedding metal pieces into the dough. Yahoo News covered this extensively because of how widespread it was. Arnold, Brownberry, Sara Lee, Stroman were all contaminated with metal wire. Now fast forward to 2024. The FDA sent Bimbo a formal warning letter accusing them of misbranding products, and this is where it gets really shady. Retail Wire and other industry publications reported that Bimbo was falsely claiming sesame and tree nuts were in products when they actually weren't present. Why would a company add allergens to a label that aren't even in the food? To avoid liability. If they declare potential allergens across the board, they don't have to invest in proper cleaning protocols to prevent cross-contamination between production runs. It's cheaper to slap a warning label on everything than to actually sanitize equipment properly. The FDA's letter threatened legal action, including seizure and injunction, if they didn't fix their labeling practices immediately. And just to prove the incompetence is international, in 2024, Bimbo Canada recalled Dempster's and Compliments brand bread because metal pieces from the salt used during production got mixed into the dough. This is a company with quality control problems that span continents and decades. Glass, metal, fraudulent labeling, they've done it all. But at least Bimbo's contaminations were unintentional equipment failures. The next company embedded metal and plastic directly into the bread through sheer negligence. Number 5. Albertsons Companies. In March 2024, Albertsons recalled over 13,500 units of their store brand bread because of metal and plastic shavings embedded in the loaves. Not on the surface where you might see them. Embedded inside the bread where you have no idea they're there until you bite down and feel something crack between your teeth. The brands affected were Signature Select, Athens, and Calpea, distributed across California and Nevada. Food Safety News and The Takeout both covered this recall, and the details are genuinely horrifying. According to the FDA's recall notice, customers reported biting into hard metal and plastic pieces that caused lacerations to the mouth and damaged teeth. The takeout specifically mentioned that some cases were severe enough to require dental surgery, with victims needing emergency tooth extractions and repair work that cost thousands of dollars. The contamination came from degrading production equipment that was literally falling apart into the food, conveyor belts shedding plastic particles, metal components breaking down, and mixing into dough. This was gradual degradation that someone should have caught during routine maintenance inspections. Speaking of companies that cut corners, let's talk about one of the biggest names in American baking, with a history that reads like a food safety horror show. Number 4. Flowers Foods. Flowers Foods is the second largest baking company in the United States. They own Nature's Own, Dave's Killer Bread, Wonder Bread, Tasty Cake, and dozens of other brands. And they've had multiple contamination events spanning different years and different types of hazards. Start with 2018. Flowers Foods recalled Captain John Durst's old-fashioned bread and Mrs. Freshly's Swiss rolls nationwide because of salmonella contamination from whey powder supplied by a third party. Food manufacturing reported that the contaminated whey came from a single supplier, but Flowers Foods distributed across their entire production network before anyone caught it. Then in 2019, they recalled hamburger buns and hot dog buns across 18 states because small, hard plastic pieces from production equipment were getting mixed into the dough. We're talking about choking hazards, potential internal injuries if swallowed, and the same equipment degradation issue we saw with Albertsons. But here's where Flowers Foods shows a special kind of carelessness. In 2021, they recalled 3,000 loaves of Nature's Own honey wheat bread across 6 western states. Why? The bags labeled honey wheat actually contained butter bread, which has milk in it. They literally put the wrong bread in the wrong bags and sent it out to stores. This was a packaging line worker grabbing the wrong stack of bags, and nobody in the quality control chain caught it before those loaves hit shelves. If you have a milk allergy or lactose intolerance, that's a potential trip to the hospital because you trusted the label. But wait, there's more. In 2020, their Canyon Bakehouse brand, which markets itself as certified gluten-free, had to recall products because they contained gluten. Celiacs and people with wheat allergies rely on gluten-free labeling to avoid severe reactions. For celiacs, gluten exposure damages the small intestine, causes malabsorption of nutrients, and can lead to long-term complications like osteoporosis, infertility, and neurological conditions. Customers were paying extra for safety they didn't get. This is a company that fails at the most basic level, making sure the product matches the label. At least Flowers Foods eventually recalls their contaminated products. The next brand thought they could just slap any label on anything and hope nobody noticed. Number 3. Lewis Bake Shop, Hartford Bakery. In July 2025, Lewis Bake Shop recalled their artisan loaf bread sold at Kroger, Walmart, and local stores across 12 states because of undeclared hazelnuts. If you have a tree nut allergy, hazelnut exposure can cause severe anaphylaxis within minutes, throat swelling, difficulty breathing, plummeting blood pressure, loss of consciousness, and death if you don't get to an EpiPen and emergency room immediately. The affected states were Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Arkansas, Missouri, Alabama, and Mississippi. That's a massive distribution footprint. The recalled loaves had expiration dates of July 13th, 2025, which means this bread was actively being sold while the recall was happening. Food Allergy Research and Education reports that tree nuts account for the highest percentage of fatal food allergy reactions. Hartford Bakery's failure here is particularly egregious because hazelnuts aren't a trace contamination issue. They're a deliberate ingredient. Someone in their production facility decided to add hazelnuts to a recipe, and then nobody bothered to update the ingredient label. Or worse, they knew hazelnuts were in there and didn't care enough to print accurate labels. But you know what's worse than undeclared allergens? When a retailer's bread contains actual pieces of the factory itself. Number 2. Kroger, Country Oven brand. In 2021, Kroger recalled 19 different country oven products, including cinnamon rolls, cheese pockets, raspberry cake, and fudge cakes because of metal fragment contamination in the starch used to make them. The recall covered 29 of the 35 states where Kroger operates, which is nearly their entire distribution network. This was metal contamination across multiple product lines, which means the contaminated starch was being used as a base ingredient throughout their production system. And this is Kroger we're talking about, one of the largest grocery chains in America with over 2,700 stores. Their Country Oven brand is positioned as an affordable option for families, and those families were getting metal with their morning cinnamon rolls. But this isn't Kroger's first metal contamination rodeo. They've also recalled Tyson chicken strips in the past for metal contamination. When a retailer this large has repeated metal contamination events across different suppliers and different product categories, it points to serious gaps in their quality control and supplier vetting processes. Either they're not inspecting ingredients properly or they're choosing the cheapest suppliers regardless of safety standards. Either way, customers are the ones who end up with metal in their mouths. And speaking of retailers who prioritize cheap prices over everything else, let's talk about the absolute worst offender on this list. Number 1. Walmart. Great Value brand. Great Value is Walmart's budget brand, and you absolutely get what you pay for. Multiple customers reported finding rubber bands and plastic shards in their bread, and the cause was almost comically negligent if it wasn't so dangerous. Worn-out conveyor belts at the production facility were shedding rubber particles directly into the dough. Meanwhile, pieces of plastic packaging were getting mixed in during production because nobody was monitoring the equipment. At least 3 people suffered cuts to the mouth and chipped teeth after biting into hard plastic pieces. One victim described it as biting down on something sharp enough to crack a molar, requiring an emergency dental visit and a crown replacement that cost over $1,500 out of pocket. Another person said they felt the plastic cut their gum and had to get stitches inside their mouth. Walmart eventually recalled the contaminated batches, but here's the thing. Great Value sources from multiple contract manufacturers, including Bimbo Bakeries, which we've already established, has its own contamination problems. So when you buy Great Value bread, you're not just getting Walmart's lousy quality control, you're also getting whatever manufacturer Walmart contracted with that week, and their quality control on top of it. It's a double layer of potential failure. But wait, it gets worse. In 2015, Great Value bread was part of the Bimbo glass contamination recall we mentioned earlier, so that's rubber, plastic, and glass. The trifecta of things you definitely don't want embedded in your sandwich. This is the inevitable result of Walmart's entire business model, which is driving prices so low that safety becomes optional. When you're squeezing suppliers to deliver bread for $1.50 a loaf, something has to give. You're saving $1 or $2 per loaf, and in exchange you might get rubber bands, plastic shards, or glass. That's a liability. That's a lot of bad news. But I promised you solutions, and I always deliver. Here are 4 bread brands that actually deserve a spot in your kitchen. These have strong safety records, transparent ingredient lists, and real nutritional value backed by independent testing and dietitian recommendations. But first, if this video made you want to start baking your own bread, hit that like button and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, have you used any of these 10 brands? And would you still use them after today? I'd like to know. All right, now on to the good ones. Number 1, Ezekiel 4-9 by Food for Life. This is the gold standard. Made from sprouted organic grains including wheat, barley, millet, lentils, soybeans, and spelt. No flour, no added sugar, no preservatives. Because the grains are sprouted before being milled, the bread is easier to digest and has a better nutritional profile than conventional bread. Each slice gives you 5 grams of protein, 3 grams of fiber, and 0 grams of added sugar. Compare that to Wonder Bread's 2 grams of protein, less than 1 gram of fiber, and 5 grams of sugar per serving. According to Consumer Reports and multiple dietitian interviews from Eat This Not That and The Today Show, Ezekiel is unanimously recommended as the healthiest packaged bread you can buy. You'll find it at Whole Foods, Target, Kroger, and most major grocery stores for around $5 to $6 per loaf. Number 2, Dave's Killer Bread. Organic, non-GMO, project verified, packed with 21 different grains and seeds including flax, chia, quinoa, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds. Each slice has 5 grams of protein, 3 to 4 grams of fiber, and only 1 to 2 grams of added sugar. The seeds also provide omega-3 fatty acids, which most Americans don't get enough of in their diets. Despite being owned by Flowers Foods, which we criticized earlier, Dave's Killer Bread has maintained an excellent safety record with no major recalls since the brand was acquired in 2015. According to multiple registered dietitians interviewed by Food Network and Eat This Not That, Dave's Killer Bread is consistently ranked as a top choice for healthy sandwiches because of its high fiber, complete protein profile, and beneficial fats from the seeds. The bread is available at virtually every major retailer including Walmart, Target, Kroger, and Safeway for $5 to $7 per loaf. Number 3, Silver Hills Bakery. a Canadian brand with over 30 years in business and some of the strictest food safety standards in North America. Made from 100% organic sprouted whole grains, completely vegan with no animal products, and packed with 5 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber per slice. The ingredient list includes quinoa, millet, flax seeds, sunflower seeds, sesame seeds, and sprouted wheat, barley, and spelt. You can find Silver Hills at Whole Foods, Sprouts, natural food stores, and some major chains like Kroger for around $6 to $7 per loaf. The Big 16 variety is their most popular, but they also make the Steady Eddie with 17 grams of protein per serving, if you're looking for even higher protein content. Number 4, Alvarado Street Bakery, another excellent sprouted grain option. And this one has a unique business model that actually improves food safety. Alvarado Street Bakery is a worker-owned cooperative based in California, which means the people making your bread have a direct financial stake in quality. Control. The bread is made from organic sprouted wheat berries and whole grain blends with seeds including flax, sesame, and sunflower. High protein, high fiber, minimal added sugar, and no artificial preservatives. They also make sprouted bagels, sprouted burger buns, and sprouted tortillas, if you want to go all in on sprouted grains across your entire diet. You'll find them at Whole Foods, Sprouts, independent natural food stores, and some regional chains for $6 to $7 per loaf. So let's recap one final time. We've exposed 10 brands with glass, metal, plastic, deadly bacteria, allergen failures, and even carcinogenic additives. Then we gave you 4 legitimate alternatives that prioritize your health and safety. So check your pantry, read your labels, and make the switch. Your body and your family will thank you. If this video opened your eyes, like and subscribe so you don't miss our next video exposing these food companies. Also share this video with everyone you know, and I'd like to know in the comment, which of these 10 brands shocked you most? Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next investigation.